When I was in the ninth grade, I saw a movie called Clash of the Titans. It's a terrible movie. Don't watch it. But if I'm honest with myself, me as a 14-year-old boy really loved that movie. My favorite part of the movie was when the Greek hero Perseus does battle with the horrible Gorgon monster Medusa. The plot of ancient Greek mythology and the plot of this rather ridiculous movie is actually kind of similar. Perseus is on the island of Medusa and he's trying to kill her. He's gone there specifically to murder her. He needs to cut off her head, and he wants to use her cut off head in another battle later as he fights a sea monster. Those stories are the same whether we're talking about this silly stop claymation movie or ancient Greek mythology. To know who Medusa is, you have to begin with who Perseus is. And Perseus was one of the greatest of all the Greek heroes. There were a few sort of really elevated Greek heroes, but these are the men who came before Hercules. Perseus is the one that sought the golden fleece. And so he went on his journey but what we care about today is Medusa. Medusa is described in mythology as a Gorgon. That means she's one of three sisters, but they're all sort of described the same way. They're monsters. They have wings, they have living snakes in their hair, and the way it's told in Greek mythology is important. Their very sight turns you to stone. And the way it often gets said is they're so ugly that when they look at you, they turn you to stone. Now, the myth goes that Perseus goes to the island, he kills Medusa, he uses that head to save Andromeda from a sea monster, and then when he's done, he gives that head to Athena, and Athena puts that image on her shield. You actually see that image in a lot of different places, especially if you go to Greece. It's on lots of walls. It adorns many different things. For a long time, and I think it might still be, that image of Medusa's head on Athena's shield is a sort of symbol of the House of Versace. But it's more than that. It's really everywhere in Greece. That image is called the Gorgonian. I learned about Medusa in college from reading Ovid. And the story that I learned about Medusa, I think, is actually rather sad. The story that Ovid tells is that Medusa began life as a woman who was just ravishingly beautiful. But the way Ovid tells the story, Poseidon rapes her. Poseidon or Neptune or whatever you want to call him. He rapes her. And when he rapes Medusa, he rapes her in Athena's temple. And Athena, or her other name is Minerva, punishes Medusa for being raped in her temple. I really want you to think about what that means. She's turned into this horrible monster by the gods as a punishment for being the victim of a rape. Feminists have taken hold of this story in the 20th century, and they're pointing out what I would consider to be the very obvious thing, that the woman Medusa has been notoriously abused and wronged. Now, the ancient Greek myth has her turning into this horrible monster, but that's actually a thing that is done to her also. She exists in this new form. So, what we're going to do today is read the poem Medusa by Carol Ann Duffy. It comes from this collection, The World's Wife, and it's really and truly brilliant. It's a very good example of a modern dramatic monologue with an extended mythical allusion. It's a modern feminist retelling of the poem. Now, there's a lot to notice here. Obviously, this is another of our dramatic monologues, and clearly the speaker is Medusa herself. But it's not that same character that Ovid invented, and it certainly isn't that monster that I got to know when I was 14 years old in the theater. There is something very human about Carol Ann Duffy's Medusa, and that's the thing that I want to share with you today. You should notice sort of the typical Carol Ann Duffy style points. She's writing in free verse. She uses capitalization in unique ways. And, obviously the stanzas have different lengths. But more importantly than that, by far the most important thing about this poem is how the speaker of the poem is characterized. In fact, that's the most important thing in all the dramatic monologues we've read. How is the author, how is the poet characterizing the speaker of their poem? That's the question we want to ask ourselves today.